Hi everyone. So I'm here to talk about this zine that I made. It's called Letters from Incarcerated Gamers. And it's exactly what it sounds like. So,
come on, internet.
Oh, show it.
Okay. So it was 2006. I was doing my undergrad, and I was like, I want to write about video games. And I was up at UC Santa Cruz. So I wasn't that far from a bunch of people who I knew who worked at Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine and OneUp.com. I made a lot of friends over there, but then around that time, the industry kind of crashed, or not crashed, but like print magazines started to go out of fashion, and even to make a living as a writer became harder. But before that happened, I was in the talk to put together this article for Electronic Gaming Monthly, and I was listening to a podcast, and they mentioned that they received a lot of letters from people who were in jail, or people who were incarcerated, and I thought that was really interesting. So I went over there, met up with my friends, and then they gave me like a stack of letters, and I was going to use those to write a story. And I was at UC Santa Cruz, and one of the professors is Professor Angela Davis, and she was a former Black Panther Party member. And she, a lot of her dissertation, a lot of her work now focuses on the prison industrial complex and if it's still relevant, and crime and punishment, and a lot of these concepts. So I had these grand ideas of doing the story, of looking at these letters and talking to her, and looking at people maybe who play games who are in jail, and just covering all these things. But of course, being a over-ambitious undergraduate, I wasn't able to do that, and kind of fell by the wayside. But I still had all these letters, and I thought I want to do something with them because they were really interesting. One of the questions after I made this zine, so I decided to put them together in a zine, sort of present them as found material. A lot of people would ask, are these real? And I just thought that was such a funny question, because why would I spend all my time writing out these letters in different handwriting and try to fake it? Hell yeah, they're real. So I put them together into this zine. My friend Mario Domo, who did Letters to an Absent Father Pokemon comic, did anyone know that?
Woo!
Yeah, you guys out there? So anyways, he helped me out with the artwork. And one of the questions that kind of comes up, people who are in jail writing about games, is who cares about consumers who can't consume? Because a lot of times when we think about video games, it's just like, oh, well, this game's coming out, go buy it. But when you're in jail, you can't, or prison, you can't really buy games, you can't really play them, you can't really consume them, but you could still kind of read about it. And that's kind of the thing that came out. So here's an example of a letter. This one's funny. So just so you know, two of your reviewers called the people chimeras, but technically they're griffins. And I think that's funny because it's such a nerdy thing to do to correct somebody. Actually, so then this guy who is incarcerated, and it's just kind of funny that this is the letter that he wrote. Here's another guy who's reading through your magazine, and just how come they don't bring back? And then he lists every single game he's ever played before. And he's like, how come they don't make new versions of these games? These are some of the games that I remember. I mean, so they're kind of funny, but when you consider the context with which they were written, they actually become really sad all of a sudden, because it's like, oh shit, this is some guy who can't play games at all, and he's just kind of trying to remember his past, trying to not be where he's currently at. So for example, this other one, this guy wrote, and he's talking about, asking about Magic the Gathering. They have a book, so he's asking if they knew of any pen and paper games that you could play while in jail, and they're even making their own cards out of playing cards and taping the thing onto them. Yeah, and so there's this theme of escapism that kind of comes up, right, to try and get out of that situation. Which is interesting too, to write to a video game magazine asking them about pen and paper games, but it's not like literally pen and paper magazine, so they're just kind of grabbing at straws there to try to connect. So here's one where this guy's just asking, I'm writing to it, my address changed from this one to that one, so it just seems kind of whatever, but then you think about it, oh, well, he's going from Florida State Prison to Zephyrless Correctional Institution, so it's kind of this other idea of, well, what happened? How did he end up going from one cell to another? Is he going to get out soon? Did he get in trouble? Is it just downsizing or what? And then contrast this one with his other letter, and I'm pretty sure this guy actually works for the jail, works for the prison, because his letter is all super nice looking, and it's just very formal. Obviously he had a typewriter so he could type it out, compared to this where the guy just it's not even straight, he just scribbled it in there. And so this idea, or this interesting parallel came up where there's these power dynamics between the people who are a part of the institution and the people who are incarcerated by it. These different power dynamics, but they have the same interest. right? They both still like video games, they both still want to read this magazine, and they both have this problem of their magazines aren't going to the right place, so they're trying to correct it. So I wrote this men, boys play, this kind of idea that like people who are, as adults or as children, and I don't like it that it's gendered necessarily, but because all the letters are by males, it just worked that way. But so a lot of it just about play and about, just kind of returning to that, and we have all this inside of us, because people might want to say, oh, well, they're in jail for a reason, they did something bad, but I like to think that, maybe they just made a poor decision at one point in life and ended up in that situation, but there's still this desire inside of everyone to, to play games still and to be part of that. Yes, so thank you. In reading the letters, I have copies of the zine with me, physical print copies. So find me after the event, and I can, they're $5. Thank you.